It's Seltzer Time. It's September the 11th, 2019. This is 508, a show about Worcester. This is Brendan Melican.
I'm shaking, brother.
I am Michael Benedetti, and it's Seltzer Time because the guests on the show today are Travis Duda and Ricky Nelson.
What's cracking, guys?
Men of Worcester, contributors to our culture of our city.
Welcome to our closet.
It's a beautiful closet.
It's pretty awesome in here. It smells a little funny. It's a little tight, but yeah, it works out well for us.
We're just getting started on that.
It's not as warm as I thought it would be.
Oh,
I also
just
had no
wait.
idea what we were recording.
Just wait.
You guys should talk. You guys should either take the mics out by your hand, or if you want to, you can put those mic stands on the ground.
Well, that's probably a good sign.
All right, so here
We are off to the best possible start.
Awesome. I'll do this.
Well, here, while you guys are doing that, here at the top of the show, I'm going to round up the headlines with a thing called Worcester in 60 Seconds. There were a couple of suspicious deaths this week, one of which the police are calling a homicide. The results of the municipal preliminary election have eliminated school committee challenger Hermione McConnor and city council challengers James Bedard and Sean Peretti-Noon from the fall ballot. Either Ralph Tissioni or Evan Corrigan will also be eliminated, but for the moment they're tied. Whatever weird slice of the electorate votes in preliminary elections did not like challengers. If these results were the final results, we'd see elected a bunch of incumbents, a couple of people who were previously incumbents before the last election, and school committee challenger Laura Clancy. And this happened a while back, but we didn't get to it on this show. The Worcester City Council has delayed our new recycling plan at least a few more months, meaning a few more months that we won't be able to discard our junk in bags like people in so many cities, but rather in open-topped bins like animals. That's Worcester in 60 seconds. Welcome to the 508 show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
Are we actually streaming?
We are streaming.
All right, cool. We got
Hello,
a funny
Internet.
light up there. It didn't look like the same light that we normally have.
I don't know.
It's a mess.
Yeah, go ahead, Brendan.
What's so we've never done this before, but I was really excited that you guys were on the show, and was trying to think of something we could do that would be like special, and like we got seltzer and whatnot, and that's special for you guys. But
Very on
Mike and
brand.
I have a thing for knives, and we usually once in a while we'll do like an EDC show, like what kind of knives you're carrying and whatnot. And instead of doing that, I want to do something different and present to both of you the first ever commemorative 508, a show about Worcester machetes. So for each of you,
weren't
we've
kidding.
got no, I'm not. I'm totally serious. Here. We got a machete.
They yelled at people outside that they had 2 machetes, and I thought that was just a joke.
Yeah, no. So there you are for each of you. This is kind of like getting a key to the city, except that key to the city that you get from the mayor opens nothing. You could conceivably open a lot of doors, especially ones you're not supposed to be going through, with those. So I feel as though this is actually a step up above the mayor's key to the city. And
I
yeah.
truly love this.
But these
Thank
are the
you so
first.
much.
My girlfriend is going to be terrified that I have this.
Oh,
I
my
also
wife's gonna
feel
be
as though there's
stoked.
something special there too, where like you keep that by your bed, and when the moment comes that you have to use that machete,
We're ready.
you'll realize that like you thought coming on this show was going to be the low point in your life, but actually it could get very worse.
And it actually prolonged our lives.
yeah.
No, when I'm fighting off a break-in, I'm going to remember my good times on this show,
Yeah.
and it's going to commemorate the honor.
And also keep in mind that today is September 11th, so if you're going to go walking down Main Street swinging a
Yeah.
scimitar,
It might not end
Mike
well.
and I are not responsible for that at all. That's
Maybe not the right day for that kind
Mike
of
told me
behavior.
not to admit to felonies.
Yeah, never mind. Go commit them. This is awesome. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you guys
much.
very
no,
much.
thank
This
you
is
for
rad.
coming on.
I don't
That's
know where-
careful. Let's try not to commit an act of murder inadvertently on the show today.
Can I have one of those nice safe guards you had?
I made those. Yeah,
Did you
I
really?
made-
That's awesome.
When you order a discount machete from Amazon, a sheath is a premium. So yeah, I made you cardboard sheaths
Oh,
so you
that
did
works.
not cut your fingers off.
It'll keep us from getting stabbed.
Yeah,
Or
there you go.
stabbing each other,
True.
which is more likely.
Those
Thank
are
you
so
guys.
awesome.
This is super cool. I mean, the most we have is like stickers or cans of seltzer. So
That's
again, we
that's
need
actually a
stuff.
far more practical and reasonable gift for your guests. But yeah,
Yeah, but they're not as cool.
one of those is actually really sharp. The other is extremely dull. I don't know which is which, but whover ends up getting cut,
We'll
I'm
find
sorry.
out.
We'll
Yeah.
find out.
Mike, back to our regularly scheduled
Back
program.
to our regularly scheduled program. I think I want to start off this show where a lot of times we end the show, which is talking about what you guys are excited about in the city of Worcester right now. You guys definitely see a different chunk of the city than I do.
Yeah. Travis?
So I mean, like right now, this week, Powwow Worcester came back with 4 more artists. We're working directly with the school system. Sarah Cannell Sanders wrote a very cool curriculum, and she's working with Davis Publication on getting this out, released nationally, about connecting public art and mural art with like tangible stuff in the school system.
Very cool.
You know, this was the first year that Powwow did the murals, I guess, in parts of the city that are not on my normal travels through the city. So I don't know if I've seen any of the new murals. Where should I be looking?
I'm going to take that as a compliment because that's kind of what we needed to do this year. We needed to get out of downtown. We needed to get out of. So right now we're on the north side of the city. Burncoat Middle has 3 murals now, or 2.5, because Bert Cap's working on his. Lincoln Street School has a whole collection of new murals. But the most impactful spot we did this year was Great Brook Valley. And we had 4 murals go up there right in the heart of this community. And it really speaks to the hard work that the Worcester Housing Authority is doing in that area and really the residents in that area. It was great seeing all these kids outside playing and like interacting with the artists. And it was so cool. It was really, really special year.
The murals are killer. You need to take a swing through GBV and take a look at them. They're fantastic.
I absolutely will do that.
I would suggest everybody go find Jason Naylor's Love Dragon because it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Quite the name. Love Dragon.
So what is happening with the murals that are going up this week with the schools? How many of those are there?
There's 4. We have Bird Cap. We have Allison Bamcat. So Bird Cap's at Burncoat Middle. Allison Bamcat and Jake Merton. Jake Merton was here last year and he's come back. They're both working at Clark Street School. And then we have local legend Eamon Gillen over at Lincoln Street School doing his damn thing.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. And that's already started?
Yeah, it started Monday. Most people will be done by Friday. Eamon's going to take a little longer. He's going for a big one.
Very nice.
Working on this big old train. It's really cool.
Very nice.
That's awesome.
How about you, man? What do you got?
I'm like, have you guys been in the new tradition building?
Yeah, of course.
Street?
Yeah.
That's
where
like
Sarah and Jake's wedding was.
Yeah. That spot has me wildly excited about the city. It's cool having 2 guys who have owned it, Jay and Joe. Bring like a completely different vibe to that part of the city.
Yep.
I don't really have a lot going on over in that part of the city, so it's cool to go there and see that neighborhood and find like the cool taco spots that are over there and stuff. So,
have you been down there that building yet?
I have no idea what you're
over
talking
on Jackson
about.
Street.
You don't need your motorcycle
No.
work done?
Yeah. There's this crazy building like over in Main South across from over by the Y. So Jackson
Maybe
Street.
I do know what you're talking about then.
And it's like half, like you just said, like crazy motorcycle chop shop, but like some really cool custom stuff happening. And then Cafe Eastern Border and this amazing, space for events or whatnot.
This is on a side street, not right on Main Street.
Yeah, it's on Jackson Street.
Okay.
So Jackson runs from Main to Beacon, I believe it is. So
Oh, okay.
on Main Street side, it's kind of down by where the Y is, and then on the Beacon Street side, it's back where the newer or the renovated mill buildings, where the apartments are. But it's this space that you would just not expect to be plopped down there. Very cool stuff.
It's like in the middle. Not the middle of nowhere, but it kind of is. Like you go in. What's the name of the street? So there's a road off of Jackson Street. Technically, the event space and Eastern Border are on Jackson Street. Then there's a road that kicks off. It's like something terrace or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's how you get to the cafe, the barbershop.
The whole thing, the whole scene down there.
It's like it's just such a cool building, and they have a lot of ideas for things they want to put down there too. And it's cool having 2 Worcester guys like literally build what they wanted to see.
This is my experience of Worcester in a nutshell, which is that like I'm on that stretch of Main Street all the time,
Right.
all the time, like sometimes multiple times a day. And yet, of course, there's something happening a couple blocks away that I'm totally unaware of.
You know where you'd recognize the building from then is the facade but just closest to Main Street. It's actually set back a little bit. The first year of Powwow, that's where Ghost Beard and Patch Whiskey did one of their murals. So it's over behind like the Asian market that's over there.
Yeah,
so
Matt
that's the
Gondek.
building. And then that's also where they hosted Secret Walls the first year of Powwow.
Is this the building where they used to have like a church, like a little thrift store and stuff a couple of years ago?
I'm not sure.
I don't
No.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they had a church in there because every
Building in Worcester had a church
tiny
at some point in time. Yeah. No, very, very cool space, though.
Yeah, right next to the Mekong Market.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Right next to Mekong. Well, that's awesome. Well, I will check that out.
What are you excited about, Mike?
I mean, I don't know that I ever get excited by anything.
Yeah.
I'm sad that Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church got knocked down.
Yep.
But I'm excited that my theory of post-Catholic Worcester now has like a real pin in the map.
Yeah.
My theory, gentlemen, being that, like we are in a post-Catholic Worcester, that the Worcester 50 years ago, if there was a parish and nobody was going to that parish and there was a church, the powers that be would figure a way to save that church, no question. But now we're in a day and age when there's still a ton of Catholics in Worcester, but they're not like this gigantic power base that sort of controls everything around them. They're just like some guys. I'm one of those guys.
Just like some guys.
We're just like some guys. So I would say post Catholic in the sense that we talk about, I don't know, post anything else. Like there's still plenty of Catholics around, but Catholic is not the right way to describe the city of Worcester.
Yeah, you're not keeping people from knocking down buildings and building, high-end apartments in their stead.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
All right, so we're done here.
I think we're done.
Thank
right,
you
cool.
for having us. That was really nice.
I wanted to ask you guys about your podcast, Seltzer Time. This is a super popular podcast.
I just like that button. I'm sorry.
And this
We
podcast,
seriously
and
need a
this,
button.
and I want to ask a couple like background, kind of like inside podcast questions. What was the inciting incident that caused you to create this podcast?
Take us away, Ricky.
All right, so my old job is kind of where it's Seltzer Time, like the opening of cans on the internet was born. Started as
Okay.
an accident. Started as like a Snapchat thing between me and our old graphic designer. Kids kind of caught on to it. I'd get messages all weekend long from kids all over the world posting like they'd open like a Coca-Cola, but they would use like the drawing tool, excuse me, and write Polar Seltzer on it. Coming like from Germany, all over the world. I'm like, what is going on right now? So
It's a fair question to ask yourself when that's
Yeah,
happening.
like,
right?
What am I
That's-
doing?
yeah, what? Whoops.
This really is a crazy timeline to be alive, right? None of this makes any sense at
I
all.
love
Welcome
this,
to the
though.
future.
I
Yeah.
love this though.
It's crazy. It's just the power of like repetitiveness basically created it. I no longer work for that company. After a while, all these kids started messaging me on my personal Instagram, being like, dude, like we missed Seltzer Time. I'm like, that's so weird. I just opened a can of water. But okay. So I was like, cool, I'll start doing it on my own personal Instagram story. So I did that. It started to catch on with like some friends in the city who own local businesses. They would do it. I would just repost it. And then obviously the question of like, does Polar know you're doing this would come through, which they do know we're doing it. We have no affiliation with them though. But they're cool.
Which is ultimately the most amazing thing, that they haven't capitalized on that. But
It's-
that's
Well,
whatever.
so
That-
we haven't asked either. So
No,
at this point,
I-
we're kind of just giving them free advertising. Why would
guess,
they?
yeah.
But we really want them to just send us cases and cases of free seltzer.
Yeah, like we're down to work with them. That'd be
and
awesome.
really, even if they're just novelty checks, like big checks would be good too, right?
my
Like,
God,
yeah,
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Real checks, small checks are cool. It's like checks are checks. No. So that went on for a long time, and then I started thinking kind of about the idea of doing a podcast. I have no idea how to record a podcast at all. So I just kind of
None of us do. That's clearly.
We're all
I mean,
People who are watching this are quite aware of
we've been
it.
doing it for 10 years, and we still have no idea what we're doing here.
That
That's.
blows my mind. You guys have been doing this for 10 years.
I think the reality is that the only person in the universe who's
We've been
figured
doing
out
this for-
podcasting.
Excuse me, we've been doing this for 12 years.
Holy
Go ahead.
mackerel.
The only person in the universe that has figured out podcasting in any capacity is Joe Rogan,
yeah.
and it's kind of like nonsense. But
Right.
like everybody else is just doing it because it's working there. It must work. No, it's just that one time. The rest of us, it's all just making up as we go along. Yeah,
basically.
probably should have more robust jobs. I don't
That
know.
or he,
That's
that he has enough money to pay people that know what they're doing, and
This
we're
is
just
true.
making it up
Yeah.
as we go.
True.
As you were saying, though.
So I kind of just do a Facebook status being like, hey, like, should I do a podcast? Mostly because I have a lot of friends that do like what I consider really cool things in the city that weren't getting the attention from major publications, or if those even exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the thing, right? Is like, what is it? It used to be, okay, I got my thing on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah.
Now enough people know that it's known. But these days, what does that even?
Yeah, the
There's no front
newspaper
page
doesn't
newspaper.
really exist, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's fleeting.
Yeah. Now it's just like, hey, I got 100 likes on Instagram. It's kind of how you know you've done
Right.
something.
Right.
So I threw it up on Facebook. Travis and I had kind of known each other like through Worcester.
Yeah, and through Mike D at Technocopia.
Yeah, shout out Mike D. Yeah, without Mike D, this wouldn't be a thing. And so he kind of hit me up. He's like, what are your intentions? Like, what do you want to talk about? So we got a coffee. We both were very much on the same page with it being kind of a way to shine a light on people doing cool things that weren't getting attention. And then a week later, we recorded a podcast and haven't stopped doing it since.
Yeah, we started in the back of Table Talk Pies.
Yeah.
And we were going to just do like a tester one because we needed a spot to
Yeah.
record. So Caitlin set us up. And then the tester one kind of went so well that we're like, screw it, let's just keep going.
yeah.
Just see what happens.
And the Good Enough podcast was born.
And that's kind of funny too, because I mean, ultimately, I think that's the same thing that Mike and I started doing this with as well. Was at the time it was even though it was a much more comparatively robust media landscape in Worcester, that was also when things are starting to change around like Worcester Magazine and the Telegram. You could tell the writing was on the wall that things were changing drastically in terms of coverage. And we had both a bunch of people in our universe that were doing really cool stuff that was completely off the radar. I mean, going back again, like 12 years, it was a lot of like shows happening in collectives and whatnot, even activist work and whatnot that was going unreported or uncovered.
Worcester, the Transgender Emergency Fund, so many things got their first coverage of any kind on this.
And then
program.
simultaneously, it was like a lot of political coverage that, not that we know anything about politics, but it was like, well, somebody's going to talk about this. There's like elections and people claiming to be in charge of things. Like we should know something about that. And it is kind of weird how like you can quickly fill a vacuum that you might not really have otherwise realized existed because
or even intended to when you started, but
Yeah.
it kind of just fits right.
I had no intention to be doing any of this 12 years later. Yeah.
Also, actually, another parallel that Brendan and I did not know each other very well when we started doing this. Like this is like doing this is pretty much how we became friends.
And I still am not sure that either of us has really figured out how we even met. Like I have no recollection of like
Duncan's Arsenal's website.
And that might have, but if that doesn't make any sense in my head because we have gotten really friendly and it's like, it just doesn't make, the timeline doesn't work out
It's
for me.
a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Boy, I had a question there for a second.
Sorry, I ruined it.
I'm totally spacing on my question.
Okay, now you guys sound like our podcast.
Yeah, like do you guys have any like big things coming up that you're excited about on your show, or is your show just like 1 week at a time? We're just gonna make it happen.
I mean, so it's normally 1 week at a time. We're just going to make it happen. But Ricky managed to get a pretty big guest for us right now. I don't know if you guys follow Instagram, but there's an account called I Peel Oranges Very Well.
Yeah.
That is just making the rounds. It's a local account.
Yeah.
It started off very silly, but it is gaining exposure, and these people have maintained their anonymity. So
Are they going to out themselves on the show?
No.
Or keep them blind? All right, cool.
We
come in in a mask.
So we were talking last week about like some future guests that we're like, there's a lot of people that we are like talking to about coming on. It's just a scheduling thing.
Yeah.
And I Peel Oranges Very Well. We both get accused of being that person.
Sure.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of insane. I met a kid.
It's not us.
I wish it was us.
Because you're like the opening food and beverages guy.
Yeah, anything online of unwrapping or peeling something started with us opening cans of water.
Yeah, if the orange fizzled as it opened, as you peeled the peel off, maybe we could explore
That's
it.
a great thing to be accused of, though, because I
It
think
is.
that for me, all I've ever been accused of is being a turtle boy for like the first 5 years of
That's-
his
Were you really?
existence.
Oh yeah. Oh
constantly.
yeah.
That was,
Oh yeah.
And it was just a byproduct of like, again, like Mike and I were some of the only people that were, I think, consistent and long term doing things like blogging and whatnot. And
Expressing your opinion on the internet.
but also when I started, it was unintentionally anonymous. I was never intending to be anonymous. I just used an old nickname that was given to me back in the early '90s by an international association of marijuana aficionados, and it was like in my circles a very well-known nickname. It was the only thing that I was referred to as, but. That's when I started to realize, like, oh, other people are reading this too, and I just never changed the name. And but people took it as like an attempt to be anonymous when it was like, no, this couldn't be any more public. So when Turtle Boy started up, people just assumed it was not too long after I stopped blogging. Thankfully, that gets all cleared out.
It's
but
a similar thing. It's like you know how to type on the internet. Therefore, it has to be you.
You're the
Knowing
only
you.
guy that could have figured this
could
out.
figured out the internet. My ham handing a keyboard. Yeah.
So, like, does Worcester have? I mean, is there some reason that the city of Worcester just has like has this real strong scene of people opening food and beverages on the internet? Is this like more of a thing than just these two things?
So I don't know. The I Peel Oranges Very Well, I think is exactly what I want. Like I wish that we were that good at anything. I can't open an orange to save my life that good. But also they've teamed up with another there's this Instagram called Butts for Hands.
Butts for
Okay.
hands.
They make merch.
Sure.
I have no idea who they are. They're not anonymous. They're like a thing.
Sure.
But they've teamed up with I Peel Oranges to make merch. With all the money going to some charity that I can't remember off the top of my head. But I thought that was like the coolest idea ever.
Yes.
They've made stickers. They've done sticker giveaways where they've just left them, put it on Instagram, and throughout the day you actually watch people find the sticker because like they'll post it on their Instagram story, they repost it. Whoever this is they are like what I wish we were when it comes to marketing, and
Yeah,
all they
they're
do is
doing
open
real well.
oranges.
This is one of those things that I think Worcester doesn't give itself enough credit for how we have a history of, and it's not, trolling isn't the right word, like absurdist humor isn't the right word. It's somewhere in between those two that it's maybe just because there's everyone's.
Provocation, like Abby Hoffman stuff.
That's what I mean. Like, I think Abby Hoffman's the high water mark or like most
Provocation.
well known, but it's just maybe just because we're all crazy. I don't know. Like, it's the arsenic in our soil. I don't know what it could possibly be, but
It's the bitter winters that have made us all.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
right.
my favorite aspects of like Worcester, like Instagram are like floors of Worcester. Like I love floors of
Yeah.
Worcester. Like I spend more time looking at tiles and like, oh, I know that floor. I've actually stood there and whatnot. And it's,
I'm writing all these down. Keep going.
you know, the peeling oranges very well. I mean, it's oddly satisfying. There's like, because they are really good at peeling oranges. It's
Yeah.
like that's,
And they do live peels where
Yeah.
they're doing like a stream of their peeling, and it's wonderful.
I have friends who we have a group chat where they break down who it could be
Mm-hmm.
depending on like who they followed on Instagram. This guy's hand looks like this in the video. Their voice sounds like this. They're a 45-year-old dad. Like
Yeah.
I can't even begin to explain the random people that I've been told are this person,
Mm-hmm.
but there's almost no way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too has to do with we've had this. Thank goodness that people like Sean Connolly have started to like up the appreciation for and the profile of like local comedians and whatnot.
Seriously.
But there's been this legacy of like low key humor in this city that I think kind of goes unnoticed in a lot of ways. And like something like that I mean, it's mind blowing, but at the same time, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And we don't give ourselves enough credit for how good I think we are and our saltiness and our cynicism and the way the outside world views that is like, oh, they're actually kind of funny over there. Yeah.
I like that they're not doing, like, they're not selling anything. They're not trying to make any money off this
Yeah.
thing. It's just that they happen to enjoy peeling oranges. We kind of happen to enjoy opening Seltzer and Worcester. So
Marriage,
it's just, yeah.
made in heaven. Yeah.
I think that's why people gravitate towards it, is because like we're not asking for anything. We're just your attention and your time.
So when's that interview happening?
So we're in the process of trying to lock that down scheduling wise, but I would safely say probably sometime over the next 2 weeks.
Fantastic.
Yes.
We just need to figure out a place that won't mind having somebody walk in a balaclava.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we-
sure.
Leave the
Are you gonna
scimitars at home that
Are
day.
you gonna
Yeah.
get one of
Yeah.
those like voice changes?
I offered to it. So we first originally were going to offer him to do our first phone interview, and then I was just going to run it through some type of audio changer.
Yeah.
But then he came back with wanting to come in with a
They
mask.
so
Okay.
I've been the one talking to them through the
Yeah.
Seltzer Time Instagram. It looks like they bought an orange like ski mask and a voice changer on Amazon.
Very nice.
Orange is a nice thematic thing.
Yeah.
Very much on brand.
Nice. I want to derail this conversation and talk
Please.
about other stuff for about two minutes here. Commodities news: Brent crude oil is $63 a barrel, up 3% on the week and down 21% on the year. Bitcoin is $10,000, down 5% on the week and up 44% on the year. And the producer price index for crushed sand, gravel, and crushed stone is still crushing it.
Nice.
For August, it was 351.2, up 0.1% since
Wow.
July. And that index doesn't move a lot, so 0.1%.
It's a big deal for the
some nice
the
movement.
crushed gravel market.
That's
There
a
we go.
nice movement.
Yeah.
We had an election yesterday.
This podcast is not brought to you by Sanssouci Stone, but Sanssouci Stone, if you're looking to spend some of that 10% on advertising budget, bring it our way.
We had a preliminary election yesterday, and for people who don't know, this is basically just because we never have on the ballot more than twice as many people as there are slots. So we had more than twice as many people who pulled papers to run for these offices. We had one extra person on the school committee and 3 extra people on the city council. So we had to have a preliminary election to say who is the one school committee person who's not going to get elected. In this case, it's Hermione McConnor, who was just on this show. Great lady. Didn't campaign a lot, so not surprising that she didn't get on there.
Yeah.
And 3 people from the city council. Actually, as it turns out, we have the bottom person not going to be on the ballot in the fall. Next person not going to be on the ballot in the fall. The next position, 2 people tied. So we're going to have
933 votes.
Yes. So they're going to, other votes are going to be coming in from the mail or someplace. Brendan knows where these votes come
I
from.
have no idea where they come from.
They
just-
opened, with votes that jammed in the box or whatever. They take everything out and they hand count everything. And so presumably, if the numbers change by at least 1 vote, then there won't be a tie anymore.
Now, most of them do come from, I think, the provisional ballots is where the bulk of them are. The ones that you are allowed to vote, but it might need to be confirmed after the fact that you're actually eligible to vote.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Anyway, and I feel like the results of this election are just that, like, people who are incumbents did well, people who have been elected to offices in Worcester in the past did well.
Yeah.
Also, Laura Clancy did well.
How many? What was the voter turnout?
That was my question.
Not that high. I didn't print it out.
Yeah, I think it was 8% and change. But I saw someone say 9. I think it was, but it was 8, and that's 8% of eligible voters, of
Yes.
which there's like 100,000. So
This
it's
is the-
actually,
yeah.
what does that make it? Like 4% of the city?
Yeah, I mean, this is the this is like the
The takeaway is some of you on Facebook who are like taking a lot of pride in having voted yesterday, you're liars. That's like, it's not possible that you all went out and voted. So
Where did you get those stickers?
What's
We
that?
know you
Buy
bought
them
them
on
on
Amazon.
Amazon.
That's totally
They got to buy them somewhere.
That's all
Yeah.
it is.
You know what I think it is, Brendan? There was a point yesterday when at my polling place, 5% of the people who voted were people who live at my address, adults in my household.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like you're just surrounded by the people who vote. Like, you know, of the 25 people in the city of Worcester who voted, like 5 of them are like your best friends, and so you think Facebook thinks everybody voted, but nobody voted.
Yeah, no, and I think it's also part of too, like the downside of social media, right? It's like the thoughts and prayers thing after like a mass shooting. Like, I think people are starting to train themselves to think just as long as you're talking about a candidate or complaining about something, it's the social equivalent of actually going out and voting. But yeah.
All right, we're just going to record this show like normal people and not care about the internet.
Cool.
Let's go ahead. What were we
So
saying?
I got thanked by a nice older woman for being a younger person coming out to vote.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I got to vote down at the Blackstone Canal,
Yeah.
whatever that new spot is.
Did you
Nice.
did you look that older woman in the eyes and say, "I voted for everything you hate in life"?
I should have.
Yeah, yeah. That's ultimately what it comes. And I asked both of you guys before we did the show, like how old you were, because we're taping on September 11th. Some of you probably watch this
yes.
afterwards. But I wasn't asking for anything provocative, and it's not like a memorial show or anything. I've just been in this really weird place lately, leading up to this year, realizing that there's a significant number of people. Like, so there are people that were born in and around September 11th, who, like they're actual adults now, like they're
Yeah.
eligible for military service or whatever. And it's starting to dawn on me as I get older that like Mike and I's Gen X, right? Like we're in this weird spot where like we live in this bubble that we're bookended by boomers who are angry at everything, and then we're on the other end are like millennials and younger who are like really, really angry at all the things the boomers screwed up. And then there's like our generation just wants to go back to listening to like good music, eating mushrooms, and playing hacky sack, and it's like, but we can't do that because there's this bookend of war that's happening,
That's
and it's
no longer that world.
it's not, and it's a really weird thing. The '90s were awesome. Like if it's just crazy,
seemed awesome.
Like we
I watched
tell
a lot of
stories
cartoons. It was awesome.
No, but I mean, like even if you're out
Handsome.
doing stuff, like you could just the stuff that you guys enjoy, like that we're starting to enjoy as a city, and what you could just do that out in public. You didn't have to worry about getting tased or anything like that. And
Everybody had amazing paying jobs. Like if you graduated college with an English degree, like .coms would just snap you up. Like,
Yeah.
Great, become a web designer. Great, we'll pay you how much money you want? $1 million a day. Great, whatever. We don't care.
But I think this is the part that bums me out the most is the realization that that wasn't reality, right? Like it was like the century prior to us being born was nothing but war and strife, and then like
It was just a bubble.
then
It was-
something happened immediately thereafter. It's nothing but war and strife and conflict. We just had this like 10 and a half years that was this anomaly over the last like 3 centuries that
is
like we all kind of got along, had a nice time, and if you said something dumb, you're gonna get punched in the face. Like
This was like the opposite of growing up in the Great Depression, where you grew up in the Great Depression and you just think like, great, everybody needs to like hoard string all the time. That's kind of your baseline. And it was the opposite. Like we grew up in this weird bubble where like things were basically good. We complained about stuff all the time.
Yep.
We fought against the man all the time. But in retrospect, everything was amazing. And so maybe we still go throughout our lives feeling like, you know, Brendan, it's a lot of pain and suffering, but it's basically a wonderful world.
But this is the problem.
Probably.
Ultimately, is like I feel as though we look at everybody else as a generation because it's a kind of large generation still, and look at everybody else like, why are you so weird? But now as I get older, I'm realizing like we're the weirdos. Like we're the ones.
are.
There's something fundamentally flawed about this moment in time that like we're the only ones that are going to end up being shocked when democracy collapses upon itself, right? Like so,
We're going to be like,
where did that
everybody
come
else-
from?
People
That
are going
was-
to be like, the signs were right there the whole time. We're like,
It's so
yeah,
cool.
but like
That was-
bad things don't happen, right?
What do you mean you can't fight a civil war in Birkenstocks? Like this doesn't make it. This isn't what I signed up for. And we'll be the
Yeah.
only ones surprised by this.
I mean, this I have to say this is like this is a generation which like as adults, you know, like the first big thing that happened when I was an adult worldwide was like the collapse of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Growing up, it's just like this is the way the world has been forever, and this is the way the world will be forever. And then suddenly one day it's like, nope, happy ending, great. And then the second thing was 9/11, which is another thing where you're just like, and now we're living this beautiful life where everything is wonderful. And then one day,
Over.
everything changes, and that's where we're just like, it can't have really happened that way, though, right? This has got to be some kind of like, this is like a dream sequence. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah.
And that's our whole generation is still kind of thinks that there's going to be this moment where we wake up.
Yeah, and
washes away.
unfortunately, this is not Bob Newhart's show here, and yeah, there was no dream. It's
There
just-
is no Suzanne Plachette laying next to us in bed at the end.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a bummer. But ultimately, the only thing that matters, again, going back to Abby Hoffman, is the famous line, "Don't trust anyone over 35." That's kind of what it comes down to. Yeah, the boomers are in fact everyone's enemy. We can all agree on that. But Gen X, we might not be any better, or at least we're not very useful. Unless
Your
we're the only ones
indifference is
left
fine with
standing,
me.
and
I'm okay with that.
we win the war of attrition. There's always that possibility too.
We've been taking up too much of this show. You guys can talk for a while.
No, this
this
is
is great.
interesting. I mean, truthfully, this is when you asked the question, how old we were. I knew we were going to get the perspective that I'm assuming we're around 10 years younger than you guys were or are. But yeah, it definitely was an interesting point because I don't really know a world where it was peaceful and chill. Like
Yeah.
I was a junior in high school, so like I was really just kind of turning on mentally and getting cognitive. And
I earlier this year went back to my high school to drop off like a thing for a charity thing, and I got to hang out with my 8th grade homeroom teacher, who like that's where we had to go when everything was happening, and it was actually like one of the coolest like hour and a halves I've had probably ever. We talked a lot about 9/11, like we were together, which was weird. But the kids that they have now weren't born when it happened and don't even know, like, I mean, they've heard of it, but it makes no sense to them at all.
Right.
And that was like, that really put it in perspective for me. I was like, oh, I'm old. Like, there's these kids that don't understand how impactful that moment was, which was really weird to hear.
You cats are at least old enough to start to at least sense a shift, that something was changing. It was
Oh yeah.
that's again I think the weird disconnect from that 10 15 years or so is that you were able to gauge a change. I think the people that much older than us were our parents and grandparents were like, oh, finally we're back to normal. Now we can just worry about nuclear war and holocausts and depressions again.
Right.
And this,
Of course, it was going to be something like this.
if we didn't need these good times were getting stressful. It was
I don't know what to do with all this happiness.
Yeah, no, I mean, and then for us, I don't know. It's a bummer, I guess. I don't know.
You know, it's a bummer, but we don't realize it's a bummer. So maybe we're kind of best of all worlds for us.
We have Seltzer, Mike. That's all that matters.
You guys are cracking them
all
left
that
and
matters.
right. Here, I'll rock one. Seltzer time.
Travis and Ricky. Oh yeah, you guys need to open a can on the internet.
Oh, we'll do that. We'll
Oh.
do that before.
Yeah, we got
Cans for
we got
days.
some in our bags too.
And we could just steal more
Do
from
it,
WCCA.
do it. Now is the time.
Oh, now's the time.
I haven't opened mine yet.
Oh, you haven't? All right,
No,
put your
yeah.
phone on you?
Do you want me to?
Fine.
Yeah. You want to record it? I think this is the first ever
This is meta.
like live on air. I've only done one other podcast that wasn't ours, and
Oh,
I
yeah?
did open us. I did Pop It.
Oh, yeah,
For,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think their first episode.
Yeah, you absolutely were.
Yeah, so I got to do that. Wait, is it gonna go back far enough? There we go.
Yes, we're gonna
Yeah,
get
we'll-
close.
we'll all get in there.
Mike's in there. Brendan's
All right,
in
you
there.
guys
My arms
ready?
are only so long.
You shook this one, didn't you?
Seltzer
No,
time.
I was good. Seltzer time.
Thank
I was
you.
actually really scared it was.
Thank
gonna
you,
spray. I was
guys.
like, "There's way too many."
That would've been
electronic things in
awesome.
here.
Oh, it's happened before, right on the computer and everything. It's
That was a
fantastic.
powerful.
So when you guys
moment.
do your show, do you do it live as well? I mean, the live stream? Have you tried?
Well,
playing
we've
around
done
at
2 live shows.
Yep.
We did a live show at the Vernon,
all? You did the one with the fix was live.
and then
wasn't
the
it?
one at the Fix.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like more.
Thanks for
of
coming
a-
out to that.
Yeah, no, that's a
Yeah.
great night.
That was a fun one. That was more of a like, we promoted it,
Yeah.
did it at like a proper venue.
Mm-hmm.
The first one we did was like our 5th episode of ever doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Travis
Ship
had-
room.
Yeah, at the ship room at
Yeah.
the Vernon. Booked his buddy to play there, and they had like really a bunch of extra time after. We're like, let's do a live episode of the
Yeah.
podcast. That makes no sense. So
That's
we did it.
do you prefer doing them recorded or
They're just a different animal. Like,
Yeah.
if we have a good conversation with somebody we really want to have a good conversation with, we need to do it without an audience. But if, like, Caitlin was at the first one, Caitlin from Table Talk. The staff of The Fix were pretty funny, even though it was almost not funny because it was funny, or the reverse. It was so unfunny, it was funny.
yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah. When
it's a
you
different
when you're
animal.
looking at a room full of people, you like instead of getting a good interview, it's almost more about like how do I entertain
Totally.
the 60 people that showed up to watch us talk for some reason.
Right, like, wait, you didn't laugh at that last joke. Now I'm worried. Now I
Right.
really have to.
Yeah, it's like a
Rather
it's
than
weird.
just being like, oh, it's fine if some of the jokes don't get a big laugh. There's all kinds of jokes in this world.
I'm not going to be there when they listen to it, so it's fine.
Yeah. We're actually doing a live episode during Woot Nanny
Okay.
at or is it Woot Yeah,
Yeah.
Woot Nanny at Woo Ha Ha. There we go.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, in October with the Woot Nanny guys, our friend Anna. We're gonna do kind of like a drunk history Worcester episode.
Very nice.
What do you know? What do you know? What is it? Are you allowed to say what chapter of Worcester history this is going to be about?
So I'm doing some research. Abby Hoffman is absolutely on there because he's just a
Yeah.
fascinating human being that I actually don't believe a lot of people from our generation and younger know about.
If you need a copy, because it's out of print, but I have one at home. His biography, his autobiography, soon to be a major motion picture,
Does that
is
steal this book?
no. So he wrote a book called Soon to be a Major Motion Picture.
Oh, that's
that-
literally what it's called.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were like making a movie. I was
No.
like, dude, that's awesome.
and
brilliant.
he goes really deep into his time in Worcester, like from his own recollection, and like some of the relationships. There's some really crazy stuff in there, but you're happy to pass it along if you're doing some research.
That'd be
Yeah, that's
incredible.
really
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, I've
The,
been doing my internet research, and I got to go hit up the historical museum, but I don't know if they're going to have stuff like that.
No, Mike does this a lot too. I mean,
I love that place.
digging through obscure Worcester history. I mean, what was it? 2 weeks ago, we were talking about like probably the most prolific or one of the first serial killers that was caught.
I watched that episode. That
Yeah,
was
it's
dark.
crazy. Like all roads lead to Worcester.
Yeah, the Klan riot. I mean, the Klan riot is a terrific thing to talk about.
Thank you so much. That's the second story.
Yeah.
15,000 Klansmen coming here and then coming out to their cars later and realizing all their stuff was busted.
And
to
the
hell.
best thing about that story is the actual story of it is so hard to track down. Like you can really go deep with just making stuff up. Like there are tales a part of that story where like planes were being shot at and like there's aircraft. None of it makes any sense. Like depending on whose great grandfather you heard it from, like it might have been the first time that like the Italians and the Irish came together as Catholics to like run the Swedes out of town. Like none of it makes any sense at all. But it is this really cool piece of Worcester history because there was this thing that, like, and apparently a lot of it had to do with Norton Company, and like, or I think we talked about it.
There was we could again, if we want to add another half an hour on, I can talk about this. Yes,
I got nothing to do today.
Norton had a lot of employees from Sweden, and they had one guy, Jesperson, who was like a vice president or something, who was very aggressive about recruiting Swedish immigrants to work for them, and also there was just like the KKK, like the sort of reborn KKK, which was really like a multi-level marketing scheme as much as it was a crazy white supremacist thing. No joke. Like that multi-level marketing scheme, that pyramid scheme, just got its hands into the Norton Company, and it just blew up inside of Norton. So a huge percentage, I'm not going to quote the percentages, but a significant percentage of the KKK members in Worcester were Swedish immigrants who worked at Norton.
Spicy at all, but I did drink like 7 seltzers, including 2 before bed. And I woke up and I was like, "You're kidding me right now! It's seltzer." And I haven't actually had a full seltzer in like 3 months.
We're gonna have to have a mineral water time
Right?
podcast. It's not
Topo
more
Chico.
relaxed, but we back to
We are, and somehow things we've been recording for 13 minutes. So I don't know if it got the part where I was swearing and we were panicking
cool.
somehow, or it just has is the video file is going to be completely corrupted. We'll
yeah,
figure
we
it
do
out.
It's a
do
magical-
seltzer all the time on the show. I mean, again, it's not like an intentional thing. It's just like that's just what we do. Yeah.
How do you maintain not burping though? Because that's always the
That was
problem
our
for
biggest
us.
issue.
Oh,
Is
really?
When we started, we drink a lot of seltzer and then realized we're just ripping burps into the mic.
Maybe that's just from like so again in the beautiful '90s, beers of choice were things like Keystone Light, and Busch, and I mean. I think getting around the idea of just politely, expelling massive volumes of gas, burping and whatnot without anyone noticing was just the norm. You just kind of had to slide that out. So yeah, you got to train your esophagus
Clearly
to just
we have
kind of
a lot to
a
learn
slow
from you guys.
release as opposed to
Drinking
just
enough
like
Natty
a
Light.
yeah.
Fellas,
No one ever had enough Keystone.
Fellas, thanks for being on the show. I feel like I've been sitting at the feet of podcasting masters. I've been
Hardly.
learning a lot.
Likewise, this has been an honor, guys.
Yeah, this
Thank
is
you so
fun.
much. And thank you for all you do for Worcester. 12
kidding?
years is a long time to do this kind of thing, so this is awesome.
And Brendan, thanks for making those machetes. Those are sweet.
No, I hope to keep that as a tradition. I think
I
that
love it.
Worcester needs more machetes, especially
I love it. I
cheap
love it.
Brazilian machetes from Amazon.
Well, that's all for this episode. We'll see you next time. And remember, you can bench more than you think you can.